Welcome back to Hi Guys. It's your boy BDR here, and I'm back with another, AQ Roads overview video. Now, this overview is going to be about Thief of Hours. Yes, Thief of Hours. I decided to take it out my bank and do an overview for it for you guys. So here's the thing about, Thief of Hours. It came out in 2012. Yes, 2012. LeBron's first ring. Cena versus Rock for the first time. Obama won the election again. The swag era where like people would actually wear like jerseys and like wear the jean jackets over the jerseys. Yeah, that era, the swag era. If you guys some history right there. 12, 12, 12 when everyone thought the world was gonna end, but it didn't because you guys are watching this video. Yeah. Enough about history. This class came out and it introduced the whole concept of temporal insanity, which is basically making your opponent hit itself for a little bit amount of time. Alright then. So how to get this class, you have to slash join the span, rep shop top to Warlick, and Thief of Hours. It is the rank 10, class for the Chronospan faction. So obviously you have to be rank 10 in the Chronospan faction to get this class. I really don't recommend buying this class for 2 KACs. Don't do it to yourself. There are better things to do with your 2 KACs. Alright then, let's go over the skills. So basic auto attack, we have our rank 1 skill, Steal Seconds, 5 mana, 4-second cooldown, short range, 1 target. Applies Stolen Life and Accelerating to you, which increases dodge by 5%, stacks to 5, and haste by 15%. Both effects last 10 seconds. Then we have our rank 2 skill, Sonic Pile Driver, Tombstone Pile Driver. 10 mana, 4-second cooldown, physical, short range, 1 target. That applies Deadlock to yourself. When Deadlock reaches 4 stacks, all stacks will be removed from your body as you will receive a HLT. The rank 3 skill, Time Stream, 15 mana, 10-second cooldown, physical, short range, 1 target. Deals damage and applies Time Ripple, increasing your crit chance by 5% and your crit damage by 5%, stacks to 3 and lasts 20 seconds. Your rank 4 passives, Future Foreseen, increases dodge by 10%, and Exterminate increases crit by 10%. Wow, there's a lot of crit in this class. Then we have our bread and butter, our Temporal Insanity, 45 mana, 20-second cooldown, magical, long range, 1 target. Wraps your target in a swirling torrent of time, confusing the target and causing itself to hit itself when it tries to hit you. Lasts 6 seconds. And finally, for our rank 10 passive Regenerative Rebirth, rarely when your hit points hit below 10%, your life is in danger, your health and mana will be restored to all, and all damage taken will be significantly reduced for 10 seconds. So, yeah, when you're at the brink of death, it basically regens all your mana and HP, and you take less damage. So, what we can gather here from this class is that same thing as last time, as when it first came out, Temporal Insanity is the class's bread and butter, which will protect you from, getting hit from these hard-hitting bosses that hit like 1k, 2k on average. Alright then, let's move on to combos and enhancement. Alright then, so here's the build that we're going to be using for Thief of Hours. Ravenous, because not going to lie, when I took this class out, it's like the DPS was pretty bad, so, Ravenous is going to help out with that. Lucky for crits, Vainglory for DPS purposes. Plus, we're going to be dodging for the most part, so I don't really think that healing is going to matter all that much. And Vim for less mana consumption because, oh my, 45 mana is a lot. So yeah, I'm going to show 2 scenarios here. One scenario where, we're in a situation where the boss is immune, and a situation in a boss isn't immune. So we're just going to start with the Doom Overlord first. For your combo, what you want to do here is, 5, and then just spam 2 and 3 4 times. 3 4 times, and then, your 4, and then you repeat your combo. Now, the thing about, Thief of Hours, right, is that, yes, it is a dodge class. Dodge class, access to temporal insanity, which could cause the boss to hit itself and whatnot. Pretty nice. Pretty nice concept. It's just that the DPS is just far too mediocre to really be an effective soloer, especially in a situation where, temporal insanity, we may fight a boss where temporal insanity is immune to his boss, so it's kind of just like, now you're stuck in a situation where like you have to rely on, the poor DPS of Thief of Hours. Right here, just, that's why we have Ravenous active. Here, it's just, as you can see, like 3.9 is just, ugh, no bueno, no bueno. Just straight up no bueno. At least it's like, okay, now we're seeing like 6Ks and whatnot. Said, temporal sanity was here, boss fight would have ended a lot sooner. The immune to temporal insanity, which is the bread and butter, which kind of hurts it. That's why you don't really see it in like a bunch of modern boss fights, because you do have bosses that are straight up immune to temporal insanity, which kind of hurts the class a lot in terms of soloing. So now you're stuck in a situation like this. So yeah, if you're fighting a boss that is immune to temporal insanity, I highly recommend using another class. Otherwise, if you are fighting a boss that is like, oh yeah, they're affected by temporal insanity, this class, it has like, good dodge. DPS could be a bit better, but its bread and butter temporal insanity is here to help that out. So in terms of soloing, it's all right. With temporal insanity, it's just that the DPS is pretty mediocre and the heal over time is mediocre as well, even though we are dodging. So yeah, it's a good mid-game soloer, I would say. All right then, let's move on to farming. All right, so we're in a fight where we're fighting a boss that can be affected by temporal insanity. 2.6k burn right there. That was from the temporal insanity. We do gotta make sure to stack our dodge because this can be a one-shot, two-shot situation. Luckily, we have Ravenous here that could help out our DPS. Here, temporal insanity again. This increasing our crit chance. Right now, good dodge. And yeah. Alright, there you saw the damage over time to 2.6, whatnot. We would have taken that if temporal insanity wasn't active. So yeah, that's basically, a boss fight where like temporal insanity is, active. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Bruh, don't use this class for farming. Everything is short range. Except for temporal insanity, short range, short range, short range. Yeah, don't use this class for farming. Alright then, let's move on to survivability. Alright then, people. So, in terms of survivability, Thief of Hours, does have some good survivability. Mainly from its, obviously temporal insanity ability and, you know, its second skill, increasing its dodge, stack, which is also stackable as well. So, as long as we keep on, stacking our second skill, we should have, a good amount of dodge on us, protecting us from bosses that would like, one shot, two shot us. Like, Ice Swing, Legion Lich Lord, as you can see right here. Yep, pretty much it. As you can see, we're barely getting hit. And as long as, we're just stacking 2 and 3. right here, it's like, not gonna lie, this is actually, a decent class to have if you don't, if you need to, like, solo Lich Lord and you don't have access to, Yami no Ronin or Chronos. I mean, this class, Horkavator, they can actually, handle this situation. You're just gonna be taking time due to their low DPS. But yeah, it's like, as you can see, we're barely getting hit. Temporal Insanity's helping us out as well, so it's kind of like, wow. Yep, just pretty nice, so very nice dodge that it has. Hey, nice dodge. Raven is helping it out with its mediocre DPS. And there you have it. This class can solo Legion Lich Lord. So yeah, in terms of survivability, this class actually has, some good survivability. As you saw, it held its own against, Legion Lich Lord, which is kind of like one of the hardest hitting bosses in the game. That can like one shot, two shot most classes in the game. So yeah, good survivability. Alright, then let's move on to support and then final thoughts. Alright then, so in terms of support, I mean, Thief of Hours ain't really offering much of the party outside of Temporal Insanity, which can, confuse the target and cause itself to hit itself when it tries to hit you. But yeah, not a lot of bosses nowadays are affected, especially these modern bosses are kind of immune to stuff like Temporal Insanity. So yeah, that's where you don't really see it in parties and group fights. Because there are bosses that are kind of immune to that type of stuff. Alright then, that's pretty much it for support. All I can really offer is Temporal Insanity. Alright then, the pros about Thief of Hours is that it's easy to use and obtain. It has access to Temporal Insanity, which can cause the opponent to hit itself. And, it has good survivability. It has a good dodge has good dodge chances and whatnot that can make it survive and hold its own against like some hard-hitting bosses like Lich Lord and Icewing. Overall, that's pretty much all that I have for pros. Alright then. The cons about Thief of Hours is that its DPS it's mediocre. Even with Ravenous and Full Forge, the DPS is mediocre. That heal over time is The heal over time is also mediocre, bad, and even with it still can get caught lacking in rare cases, even with Temporal Insanity active, you still can get caught lacking sometimes by like Lich Lord and Icewing. So yeah, that's pretty much, it for the cons. Alright then. My final verdict about Thief of Hours is that Thief of Hours is a nice mid-game dodge class. I recommend getting this class if you don't have access to Yami no Ronin or Timekeeper. Alright guys, that's pretty much been it for the Thief of Hours overview. Make sure to like, share, subscribe for more Hi Guys content. You already know the road to 400. Subscribe. Leave a bell, notifications, tell your friends, your family, your pets, whatnot. And yeah, Hi Guys out.